Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel. The biggest problem when it comes to money is often how we think about it. We're hardwired to prioritize today rather than think about the future. We live in a society that encourages us to buy more stuff, to buy nicer stuff, to live a life of excess. In psychology, this line of thinking is known as temporal discounting or time discounting, where we prioritize the present moment, the now, over the future and any consequences it may bring. This concept really permeates all aspects of our lives, from financial to health to relationships, you name it. If we think about it from a financial standpoint, it's so easy to spend on something in the moment, today, to get that instant hit of gratification, as opposed to, say, putting something away into investments to provide for your future. If we look at it from a health standpoint, it's why it's easier to, say, eat a piece of cake now than it is to, say, eat an apple right now, which would be a greater investment in your long-term health. And I recently watched a TEDx talk on the subject of, probably no surprise here, retirement. It was actually given in the UK by a financial advisor named Amir. And in it, he talks about how as long as we have enough money to sustain our day-to-day lives, many of us adopt a rather unconscious attitude about money. We pay our bills, buy our groceries, maybe splurge on a few items here and there, but we don't necessarily keep track of the details. We focus on today rather than on what's happening down the road. And why this happens is actually pretty easy to understand, and Amir demonstrates this by asking the audience 3 questions. Without looking into your personal wallet, do you know how much money you have on you right now? Most people can't answer this question accurately. In fact, Amir says about a third of people can't answer this one. And the point isn't to feel bad about it, but to bring attention to financial mindfulness. Because if we don't have any idea of how much money we have on us at any given time, that can signify some deeper financial problems. Maybe we don't have any idea what's happening in our financial house, or more deeply, where we spend our dollars. The ability to have these up-to-date mental tallies of your finances does indicate an overall picture of, are you a person who's keeping track of these broader financial metrics in your life? The next question the speaker asked was, think of the last time you withdrew $100 from an ATM or made a transaction of that amount. Can you account for it? And if you can, and you know where you spent this money, a big kudos to you, because most people can't recall where this money was spent. For many people, it can be a challenge to remember how they spent their dollars. And when it comes to larger dollar amounts, you would think they would be easy to recall, but often they're not. And this can indicate a gap in financial tracking. I know we hear about those little expenses adding up, like drinking your $5 coffee and how it can be a wealth killer. And I don't want to say the little expenses don't matter. They certainly do, but they don't matter as much as the big expenses. And if you can't recall where your money is going and it's going out in $100 or $200 increments, that can be a signal or can eventually become a really big financial problem. And the third and final question, can you detail your expenses from last month? This question is even tougher than the previous one because it requires consistent tracking and reviewing of your expenses. It's not just, oh, I remember that one big expense that I had, but I can account for all of my expenses. Now, I know many people in this audience can unequivocally say yes to all of these questions, and specifically that last one. And not only that, but they can say, I have this spreadsheet that breaks it down by category or line item by line item. But it's not surprising to hear that most people can't actually account for what their lifestyle costs. But just because most people can't accurately account for what their lifestyle costs today in the moment doesn't mean they can't learn that skill, that they can't learn how to do it. It just comes down to financial mindfulness or financial awareness. The easiest way to increase financial awareness is to break it down into steps. From big to small, for a period of 30 to 60 days, track every single expense you have. You have to know where your money is going. And it really doesn't matter how you do this. Maybe you just simply put pen to paper. Maybe you use an Excel spreadsheet. Maybe you use an app. There's no wrong answer, whatever works for you. You just have to figure out what is happening with your money. Next, it's about setting goals. Big or small, it's important to have something to aim for. This might be something like paying off your debt, or saving for a vacation, or even saving something as simple as 1 month's worth of emergency expenses. That would help you to beat that typical American statistic on how most people can't even afford a $1,000 emergency. The next step is to create a budget. A budget is where you put intentionality to your money, where you create a detailed plan for your dollars. It is essential to track your expenses first and kind of figure out what some of your financial goals are first before you do this budget, because that way you can actually assign some real figures to each category, whether that is housing, entertainment, dining out, you name it. It's also important to remember that life is not set in stone, so you want to build some flexibility into your budget so you can make adjustments as necessary. The next step is to automate as much as you possibly can. When it comes to savings and investments, you want to set it up so that is automatically taken out of your paycheck and going right into your investments or right into your savings account. When it comes to your bills, set those up on autopay so there's something you don't have to think about. You want to automate as much as you possibly can when it comes to your financial life. The more actively you have to be involved, the less likely things are to get done. And finally, it's important to be continuously working on improving your skill set with money. And really that comes down to continually working to expand your knowledge base. Maybe that's watching videos like this here on YouTube, or it's reading articles, or it's reading books. There are numerous ways to do it. When it comes to trying to create and follow a financial plan, it's important to remember that everyone will face obstacles. The most common obstacles we face as people are, number one, impulse spending. And that circles back to the original psychology term of temporal discounting, putting a greater emphasis on the now rather than the future. It can be so easy to prioritize your wants and needs of today over everything else in the future. But I would argue that it's this tendency and this habit that causes people the most financial stress. The simplest way to combat that is to engage in something like the 24-hour rule. Rather than giving in to the knee-jerk reaction of saying, I've got to buy this right now, give yourself a moment to breathe. Sleep on it, really think about it before you actually hit buy. For a lot of people, their finances get put on the back burner because they're busy, and we're all busy. I recently did a video where I went over all the various accounts and how frequently you should be checking them. And you'd be surprised to know that once you have a system in place, staying on top of your finances actually requires very little time commitment on your part. So I'll link that video here and down below if you're interested in checking it out. If you're new to taking control of your finances, this can be a very real feeling. Maybe you feel like you just don't know where to start. My best tip for this would just be to get started in one area. If you feel like you have an overwhelming amount of debt, start by paying off one bill. If you feel like your expenses are totally out of control, start by focusing on one area. Maybe that one area is entertainment or dining out. If you want to get started investing, start with your employer-sponsored retirement plan, like the 401k. Set a small piece of your paycheck to go towards that account. Then you can explore other investing options later. I'm a big fan of breaking things down into simple, easy to execute steps. You don't have to solve everything today, but you can take one step today. You can get started today. The other major obstacle I tend to hear about from people when creating a financial plan is trying to build one around an inconsistent income. This may be because you're a freelancer, maybe you're an entrepreneur, maybe you have seasonal work, whatever the case may be. It can be hard to plan a regular budget around an irregular income. The simplest tip for this one is to try and build your budget around your lowest earning month. By becoming more financially mindful, you can achieve greater financial stability and peace of mind. You'll be better prepared for financial emergencies, less likely to take on debt, and more likely to reach your financial goals. It is not about being perfect. It is about making intentional choices that align with your goals and help you get to where you're trying to get to financially. What are your thoughts? Leave them in a comment down below. I post new videos every single week. If you got anything at all out of this one, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, or if you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing. I'll see you soon. Bye.